The Goat House is back after day one of the NFL Combine. I'm talking the biggest winners and losers, where they could go in the draft now that their stock is up and down, and which teams they could possibly get drafted by. We'll do this for every single day of the Combine. Let's jump into it. The biggest winner at the start of the day was Oregon defensive tackle Derrick Harmon. Already was obviously known as a first-round pick, or at least borderline first-round pick, but made himself some money today. Obviously a big dude, all the measurables checked out, has the arm length you look for. He was fast in the 40, very smooth, obviously, a little faster than expected, but the biggest reason, and he's already a winner because of those things, but the biggest reason, you keep hearing all these reports from different teams that he aced the interviews, and teams love that. And the most important thing about this process, everything, but mainly the interviews. So he sounds like a smart, good guy. So he's soaring up boards right now. Before he was a first-round player, a top 32. At the lowest he'll go was the Eagles pick. But now, I don't think he gets by that Pittsburgh Steelers pick at 21. I mean, if somehow he does, the Chargers at 22, I think definitely would take him. I think his ceiling now could be that 11th pick with a 49ers pick. They're looking for more defensive linemen. They would love to have Derrick Harmon on their 4-3 front at defensive tackle. Harmon does a very good job shedding blocks, maybe the best in the class, getting in the backfield, disrupting. He's really that good. He's got to finish a little bit better. He slipped right off of sacks and tackles before, but if he can do that, he could actually be elite. He could be an elite NFL player, but he has to finish better. So that's something, can he ever fix that? But what you don't need to coach right now is his ability to shed blocks and just disrupt, get in the backfield, because again, he does that at a very, very high level. So Steelers, Cardinals, Bengals. I mean, I highlight teams that he could land with. Where are we most likely going to mock him? Those three teams is what I came up with there in the middle of the first round. But again, could go as high as that 49ers pick. Could he go to the Cowboys? It's definitely possible. The Dolphins is pretty early pick as well. So could go anywhere in that range, but look for him to climb up boards. Seemed to be a team favorite at the Combine. Ty Robinson, the Nebraska defensive lineman, had himself a day, especially athletically, was off the charts in all those testing categories. Perfect world, you wish you could have a little longer arms, but it's not like he's lacking big time in that category. Obviously tall, athletic body, high motor type player. So wasn't getting a ton of love before. Maybe it was a 4th round pick, but I think we could see or hear his name called on day 2, maybe 3rd round pick, top 75 probably would be his ceiling. Stock is most definitely up after that testing day. So I think he fits as a 3-4 end role. Could slide inside if you need him to, but that his body type, his athleticism, where he played at Nebraska, looking at a 3-4 scheme, doesn't mean he absolutely has to go there, but 3-4 scheme, play the DN role. Panthers, Saints are going to be switching, at least slightly under Brandon Staley, going from Dennis Allen to Brandon Staley. And I love the Vikings fit with Ty Robinson. It just feels like a Brian Flores defensive lineman, specifically that 3-4 end spot. Panthers, like we said, stand out as well, but a guy that made some money in day one. Texas A&M pass rusher Shemar Stewart with a freaky outing at the Combine. We expected it, but it was still impressive. I mean, he's a big dude. He lost a little bit of weight to show that, he could do that. He could be athletic. He's not going to be this stocky, just all physical bull rush style player. He can do a lot more, but a very good size, 6'5", 267, super long arms. So he's already a winner because of that. And then he goes and tests off the charts. I mean, he's top 5 all time for broad jump for that position, top 10 all time for vertical jump for that position. Then he runs a very good, 4.5, high 4.5s, 4.59, I believe it was, in the 40. I mean, it's a freaky dude. And he has some good tape in terms of get off, showcasing his physicality and his speed, the speed to power, and disrupting, causing chaos. You wish the production was there. He's another guy that, you wish he could finish a little bit better. But a lot of teams he played, they got the ball out quick, a lot of RPO, just quick reads. And he did a good job causing chaos. So I think there's a lot of upside at the next level. It's a guy that teams are going to be dying to work with. Before, I thought his floor was kind of that Packers pick in the top 23. And then after, I think he's not going to get by that Falcons pick is where I'm labeling him there. And the Falcons, if he's on the board, I think Jeff Ulbrich and company would love to have him on that defense, as they desperately need a pass rusher, and they look for freaky traits. So the league's going to think very highly of him. I think he could go as high as the Panthers pick at pick 8. I'm even thinking, as I'm thinking about it, he could go earlier. I'm just trying to pinpoint that exact spot, but this is a guy teams are going to be dying to work with. If you believe in the RAS score, he scored 100 on that. I mean, teams are taking that more and more seriously, like the athletic profile, at least, of these players. Everyone wants to coach a guy, and he has traits you cannot coach. So he's going to go very, very early. I love the 49ers fit at pick 11. They're a team that looks for traits as well. He has what they look for. Pair him with Nick Bosa. Again, we talked about that Falcons pick. The fit, probably the latest he gets picked. The Saints look for, those types of players, the freaky athletes, the traits, the long, athletic profiles that you can't really coach, and they're probably looking for more athletic edge rushers going forward in that, newer defense, the new look Saints team in general. So he's going to go earlier than you think. Don't worry so much about the production. People worried about that with Chop Robinson last year. He looked pretty promising in his first year. So you kind of compare them. They're both athletic, lacking production, but Stewart's way bigger, way stronger, maybe a better prospect than a guy like Chop Robinson. So interesting round one guy here. James Pearce Jr., the first round prospect from Tennessee, started the day off trending in the wrong direction, actually. He was, not that the arm length was a big issue, but he looks a lot longer than that. I thought he was going to have like 34-inch arms or more. 32 in 3/4, not the end of the world, but starts the day off with that, and the vertical jump is only 31. That's you expect a lot more. That's pretty underwhelming. But then he rips off a 4.47 40, and he is super, and the broad was okay. Good enough, obviously, which is a little more important than the vert, but rips off the 4.47 40, which just tells you this guy's freaky. And it's a guy you want to work with. And he played the off-ball linebacker position at times. And sometimes you're going watching him on tape like, God, we might be able to start him right there, like a 4-3 outside spot. But even though he's a damn good pass rusher, that's where you're going to play him. But versatile, and the speed matters for that linebacker spot, though, as well. And then super smooth in the drills. So, and he's got the height, 6'5". He's not too light. There was some worry about that. I mean, you see in this picture, he looks a little skinnier last year compared to this year. 245 is fantastic for him, but how fast he was. Before it was people mock him to the Ravens. It was typically earlier than that, but now I think he has a floor of around the Buccaneers pick. I think the Buccaneers would love to have him, in the middle of the first round, but I think he has that ceiling of they had that Panthers pick, just like we talked about Shemar Stewart. They could be looking for a pass rusher. Do they value the speed? And he has the production, and then boom, they take him because they need a pass rusher. I could see it, but I think most likely potential landing spots that I label, I try to pick out 3 for all these guys. I really could list about 15 for all of them, or 10. But the Buccaneers love that fit. Seattle Seahawks, if he slips through a little bit or if they trade up, it just seems like a really good option for Mike McDonald's defense, a pass rusher. He's looking for more of the athletic profile. That can drop in coverage again. He can play off ball if you need him to. In the Cardinals, I think Jonathan Gannon would love to have him off the edge. I think they'll like the production, the athleticism mainly there, and the guy that they can work with. So a guy that made some money, started off a little rocky, nothing major, but then, man, he really took off. What was most important, the 40, and then the drills even more important there. So James Pearce Jr. making some money. I did not expect Landon Jackson, the Arkansas pass rusher, to test the way he did. 6'6", so obviously he was listed at 6'7", Arkansas, so right there, 6'6", 264. Yeah, I mean, you wish the arms were a little longer since he's 6'6", but they're long enough at just over 33, but he tested so well at the top for the vert, 40.5-inch vert. I mean, that's absurd for a guy that's 6'6" like that, bigger body. Towards the top of the broad jump, tested overall pretty well. I just did not expect that. So he was, even though some people talked about round 2 or earlier round 3 with him, that really never was the case. He's more of a late round 3 guy. Unorthodox, a little unique in his body movement during his rush plan. So I think a late round 3, maybe even early round 4 was more like it. I thought that's how teams viewed him. After, I think someone's going to be just in awe, have to take a shot at him. Top 75. Could he possibly go late round 2? I think it's a possibility, the ceiling for him. But I'm looking for teams that'll put him in as like a 4-3 end, teams that really value the athletic profile and the size. Teams that scream that, Commanders under Dan Quinn, the Browns, opposite of Myles Garrett. Maybe they trade Myles Garrett, and the Lions, Dan Campbell's team there. All 4-3 teams, they like athleticism. And they like, defensive ends that got some size to them as well. I thought those teams really stood out as a fit. Of course, could land somewhere else as well. I tried to challenge myself, narrow it down to 3, kind of defeat the purpose, make it lame if I listed even 8 to anything more teams here. So, some good fits there for Landon Jackson, who surprised me at least. Femi Oladejo from UCLA. You wish he would have done more of the testing drills, but was pretty explosive in the ones that he did. But where he made his money was on the field in the drills. I mean, you like the build to this guy, but he's very, very smooth. He was actually an off-ball linebacker turned edge rusher. Looked like a natural at the position. Looked like he found a home, but he can play off-ball linebacker if you need him to. He kind of showcased that athleticism, the movement skills. He showed out a bit at the Senior Bowl as well, and then making some more money. He was a little longer than expected here, so good frame, good build. So a little better than expected in that category and how smooth he was on the drills. So before was kind of a late round 3 guy. I think he's going to go early round 3, but he could sneak into the second round as well. He's been getting a lot of buzz lately, a guy teams want to work with more. He reminds me a little bit like an Arden Key type player where, yeah, he's now an edge rusher, but you still kind of get get the feeling that he could be off ball, or you can line him up, align him in different spots and blitz him almost in different spots. And he did that at UCLA, even though he was an edge rusher. I mean, he would line up standing up, over guards or, in the B gap and just go get after the quarterback. So pretty impressive stop in the run as well. So he's a unique player, not going to be for everyone, but some teams that kind of make sense as a fit is, teams that like to work with these unique edge rushers that could also drop in coverage. Patriots, even though they switch staffs, it's the same old school Mike Vrabel, same old school Patriots team here, Patriots defense. It's a big time fit there. The Giants, it kind of feels like what Shane Bowen like in his defense. He was with the Titans. I compared him to Arden Key, so it makes sense there. But they could lose Aguilari, and they'll have, this could be a rotation guy or a guy they can use with their current starting pass rushers. They can align in different spots. To me, that made some sense. In the Ravens, it seems like a Ravens type of guy. They could be looking for their pass rusher, around the range that he could go as well. But a guy that can rush the edge, has upside, and that can drop in coverage. So I thought those teams stood out, but a few other teams, that can make some sense. The Titans as well, but obviously more than that. But a winner. Day 1 of the combine. Donovan Ezeiruaku of Boston College dominated the agility drill, so the 20-yard shuttle and the 3-cone, which is pretty important for defensive linemen, more so than 40-yard dash, because quickness, change of direction, obviously more important than long speed. Even though the 40 does tell you something. So he was at the top of both those agility drills. Not a whole lot of guys participated in those or did well. He was at the top of both, so that's fantastic. He's a little on the shorter side, 6'2", but checked out with the arm length. 34-inch arms is fantastic for him. He does look like that. He looks pretty long, well-built. Some people worried about his weight. I didn't. He looks like a well-built dude. 248 is fantastic for him as well. You wish he participated in more, but the agility drills were fantastic. Before, I snuck him into the first round last time we talked during a mock draft, but he was kind of known as a top 50 lock. I think we'll hear his name called in round 1. I think a lot of teams like him, and he did pretty well here. I like that he participated in those agility drills and killed it. Ceiling, the Buccaneers at pick 19 seems like a really good fit in their defense, kind of a stand-up rush linebacker, but that also could put his hand in the dirt, pretty physical, has the length. The Ravens make a lot of sense towards the back end of the first round. And the Buffalo Bills have kind of been adding guys that, sometimes you go, they have a defensive end, and that guy kind of feels like a stand-up rush line, edge rusher, I should say. So they're a little open, is my point, to what type. Kind of could be what they hope for in Von Miller. At that stage of his career, I don't know if he's ever going to be like the prime Von Miller as Ezeiruaku, but that was kind of my thinking there if he goes round 1. But if he does sneak into early round 2, there's several teams at the top. Like if they didn't get a pass rusher yet, they could grab him. But Ezeiruaku could have just solidified himself in the first round. Danny Stutzman was impressive. The Oklahoma middle linebacker, a lot more athletic than I expected. Tested very, very well across the board. I thought he looked smooth in the drills as well. I mean, a year ago, some people were kind of saying he could be a future, probably second round pick, but maybe even people talked about could he be a late first round pick. But then everyone's kind of talking like he's this old school linebacker. But I mean, just going out there and showing that he's smooth and he's athletic, that is huge. So I think his stock was starting to drop just because, is he an old school linebacker? Is he athletic enough? Was a late round 3, round 4, or early round 4 guy, but I think he kind of locked himself into round 3. I could even see late second. I think team's just looking for a middle linebacker. I'd prefer like a 4-3 middle linebacker, but like the Browns or the Niners, but a team like the Broncos could be looking for a guy like that. I could just see him, Sean Payton be in love with a guy like that. So those teams kind of stood out as fits, but he's surprised. I'm not super shocking, but the athleticism surprised a little bit today, so that's fantastic for him, for a guy that kind of plays like an old school middle linebacker, but also is a very good leader, very smart guy. So he definitely helped his stock today in day 1. Jahad Campbell, the linebacker of Alabama, is well known as the top linebacker in the class, even though he does have some company. But yeah, freaky dude, measured in, pretty well, wasn't undersized. Maybe some expected that, and then was very smooth, obviously, throughout the day, very athletic. Nothing we really didn't expect, but he's an interesting one. Like, where do teams, where do teams value linebacker, off-ball linebacker? 2, he did rush off the edge. Does a team move him off the edge, or they use him at both? Is he going to go to a 4-3 and just strictly play outside linebacker? Or is he going to go a 3-4 team and get used all over the place? Very tough to pinpoint which teams are he's a tougher one compared to the rest. Like, where is he actually going to land? It's kind of a little bit of a shot in the dark there, but he could go, he's rangy too. He could go, again, the Bucs could be looking for linebackers. Levante David near retirement. They may be looking to bring him back for another year. We'll see what happens there. They could use him off the edge. The Bills can get creative with him. Anybody really could use him somewhere. He's a little tricky to figure out where he's going to go in the draft and which type of scheme, feels, or which team feels like their scheme fits him best. He's a very intriguing prospect, but a freaky dude. Was kind of getting some comparisons to Fred Warner. Not that anyone was saying he's going to be Fred Warner, because it'd be ridiculous, but who knows? So some high praise there, and it made himself some money here in day 1. Talk about some more winners, then we'll talk about some losers as well of day 1. CJ West, defensive tackle from Indiana. I think he's very underrated. When you watch him, I watched him a lot live this year. He was very solid, very good. Even in the playoff game against Notre Dame, he stood out here and there. He's just undersized. That's the issue. He's underrated because he is undersized. But he tested very well. But he came in, the arm length was at the bottom, of today, and that's a problem with defensive linemen. So it's hard to say he's a massive winner, because that kind of just, the exact arm length, everyone was thinking like he's lacking that category. It didn't really help him, but he looked really good after that. I think because how talented he is, I think he could go in round 3, but we could see him early day 3 because of that. Darius Alexander, ran very well. The 10-yard split was great. The Toledo defensive tackle. I don't know if he really improved his stock. He did big time from the Senior Bowl. I don't know. He's kind of got a ceiling on him. Was he going to be 25 years old? He's very solid. I don't know if he can go in round 1. It's possible he can go very late round 1. I just don't think he really boosted his stock a ton, but he did have a good day. Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle from Ohio State, big body, stops the run. He's going to help you stop the run. You get him, and he's going to start on early downs. He's going to stop the run for you, so teams are desperate for that. I thought he looked pretty smooth out there. I think he's locked in at round 2, but yeah, could be a surprise late round 1 guy. Georgia defensive lineman Tyrone Ingram Dawkins, tested off the chart. So he's a guy that's the beauty of the combine. You see a freaky guy like this that's not a huge name, even though he's at Georgia, and it kind of makes you want to go watch more, or maybe we're still early in the process covering free agency. We got to watch a lot of. So that's the beauty of the combine, finding guys like this, like, okay, I'm definitely going to go check that guy out because he's intriguing. So I got to watch more of him. I know he would during the year, lacking production, not fully there yet. He's a little bit of a tweener too. He's not really a deep inside guy. He doesn't have the strength or the weight for that. He's an athletic freak. Got to figure out where to put him. He's a fun guy to work with. Jordan Birch, weighing as much as he does, around 270 in the 270s. It's a big body defensive end. He moves pretty well for that size, so I thought he helped himself there. Could sneak into round 2, could be a round 3 guy. Shmael Mondon, another Georgia guy, a freaky athletic linebacker. Georgia just has these freak athlete guys. And then Auburn linebacker Eugene Asante, a guy that we'll have to watch some more because he tested off the charts, but could be another day 3 guy. But some more guys we got to check out. Some other guys that did good, but they kind of have their flaws, or they didn't really improve their their draft position that much, even though guys like Darius Alexander, but they're already in a good position for his case after the Senior Bowl. And then some losers of day one. I mean, most of these guys didn't like kill their draft stock or anything like that, but some really good players here. Mike Green, pass rusher from Marshall, big-time production machine there, had a fantastic year, played well against some decent competition as well. I mean, it's unfortunate that hamstring tightness popped up and he was unable to work out, but he's a loser because other pass rushers in his range of the draft, like Shemar Stewart and James Pearce, they made some money, so maybe they better their position, which pushes Mike Green back. And you'll see a common theme on this losers list. The undersized guys, or the undersized guys pretty much have to test off the charts. It's just the way it is. Teams really take like length and size seriously. So for Mike Green not be able to go out there because of hamstring tightness, I mean, you don't want to mess around with a hamstring, but and other guys making some money, that's tough. And he's just on the smaller side, lacking some length. So you want him to go out there and dominate the testing numbers there. And then Jalen Walker, possibly an elite prospect or close to that, versatile edge / linebacker from Georgia. He was a lot smaller than I thought he was. Watching him, I thought he was bigger than that. Maybe that was just me, but that's the only thing I could go off is just watching him. So he came in very short, and the length isn't super lacking, but he doesn't have the measurements of an edge rusher. But man, the tape, he looks more like an edge rusher, like a high upside edge rusher than he does off-ball linebacker, even though he's good at off-ball linebacker. But it kind of makes you go, where do we got to play this guy? Is he a full-time edge? We're banking on him being Micah Parsons. Can he be that? Or Hassan Reddick? Or is he just got to be off-ball? I mean, it's not the end of the world if he's off-ball because he's good there. But he's still a top-tier prospect. But do teams start to worry about the size a little bit? And does he drop himself from being getting taken well within the top 10, which was realistic before, and it still may be. Jack Sawyer, I was never really super high on him. I wasn't really understanding the hype. A very good player, could be like a Sam Hubbard type player, but kind of as a ceiling to me. But a very tight pass rusher, I thought, when watching him. Did go off into playoff minus the last game of the Natty. I thought Notre Dame, when he played a good offense tackles, they handled him very well. So I thought he was more of a late round 3, early round 4, which was kind of a bold take. A lot of people had him round 2, but the arms are tiny from him. I was not expecting that. So on top of that, him being kind of a tight guy, didn't run the 40. The arms are very, very short, unusually short. So that's not ideal, and it's a very important thing when it comes to pass rushers, but round 3, round 4. Josiah Stewart from Michigan, I'm a big fan. Explosive get off. He's productive. Explodes off the ball, I should say. Very fast, very athletic, very strong, severely undersized. Didn't see him do those drills. We didn't see him do those testing drills. Like, it's a guy that needed to knock, the 40, for an example, or the agility drills out of the park because he is undersized and people were doubting him because of that, even though he has good tape. And we didn't get to see that from him, so that's tough. So still think could go on day 2. If he had the size and he tested, I think he could have been a round 1 guy. Jordan Phillips from Maryland, undersized guy. I kept hearing he was going to light it up. The testing numbers lit up the East-West Shrine game. He's going to line up, the testing drills didn't show up for that. So that's tough for an undersized guy, but could be a day 2 or early day 3 guy. Barrett Carter, Clemson linebacker. Another guy, kept hearing he's going to blow people away with the testing numbers. Didn't see it from him, and he did the explosion testing, which is the verticals and the broad jumps. He was underwhelming in those. So I was expecting big numbers. I expect him to run the 40 and run 4.5 something, or maybe even get better. Sometimes those Clemson guys do that, and we just didn't see him run it. So just a little underwhelming from these guys. Not really the end of the world, but man, every year less and less guys are testing. It's kind of turning into bowl games, if you will. It's a little disappointing. Still enjoyed myself, obviously. Love this time of the year, but a lot of you watching out there, it's our favorite times, one of our favorite times of the year. So we kind of hope these guys compete, but we understand they're making a business decision and sometimes smart. But some of these guys, I don't see why you don't go out there and run 140, and then save the hamstrings after that. So did not love that, but I did enjoy myself and a really good outing for some of these guys. And felt good about the guys we talked about, where they can go in the draft, and then which teams they could possibly fit. We will do this for every day of the Combine, so join us for all that. Like, subscribe to notifications on, and updated mock draft when it's all done. Then free agency. We got all kinds of free agency content on the channel. More to come. So make sure to join us. Appreciate you guys very much. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.